Today, we're going to be taking a look at GitKraken.dev, looking at some of the features that are in there to help you enhance your team alignment. So not just looking at the features, but giving you some tips, some best practices on how to use them, make the best use of them for your team. Today, I will be joined by Jeff, who is basically heading up that GitKraken.dev product. So he has lots of insight into how things work, what we're working on next, and how to make best use of them. So if you do have questions as we're going along through here, please feel free to add them to that Q&A panel. As we see them, Jeff will try to respond to them. If we don't get to them as we're presenting and going through things, we'll definitely get to them at the end of the session. So before I hand it over to Jeff, just very quickly, a couple of things we're going to cover today. We're going to help you learn how to spot bottlenecks and keep everything on track by using things like Team Launchpad. We recently released Insights for GitKraken.dev, which will help you kind of measure and provide metrics. And then we'll also take a look at a sneak peek of something that's not yet available for GitKraken.dev, but will be coming in the future with automations. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jeff, and we will get started.
Thanks, Ken. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. Just to kind of talk to a little bit about, where we're going to be spending our time today. Obviously, there's a lot of different things that the GitKraken platform can cover, and we have a bunch of different pain points that we're trying to address in today's demo, and with some of the things we're looking at with Launchpad and with Insights and automations. We're really trying to focus on the dev leader pain points and things that we can, try to address in that space. So, all of these things are important, of course, but we'll be looking at just improved visibility across your team, both in the form of metrics and in the form of just activity using Team Launchpad. We'll be looking at some ways that we can provide standardization and compliance aids in the form of automations. And also, like I said, team visibility and onboarding as well, with some other ancillary things that I'll be talking to briefly with workspaces. So you can run to the next slide, Ken. And all of this is obviously part of the entire GitKraken platform, and we focus mainly on GitKraken.dev today, but a lot of the things we're looking at are available to a degree in the other tools and through quick access through things like the browser extension. And so just keeping that in mind, wanted to make that note. Most of what we do and what I'll be showing is available for the major Git hosts. I'll note when it may or may not be, but keep that in mind too. And with that, I think we can jump into the first bit of the demo. So what we're looking at here is Team Launchpad. We do have obviously a regular personal Launchpad and a Team Launchpad. Really quick, I think this has been covered before, but the personal Launchpad is more about what pull requests and issues are assigned to you or that you are involved with. And with our team view, this expands out into the entire, collaborator contributions for everybody in your organization. So for the purpose of today's demo, we're using GitHub. We're going to be talking to, how GitHub works, but with the Team Launchpad does support any of the cloud providers today for access into, these pull requests or merge requests or whatever it is that the provider you're using has. So from a team standpoint, one of the things that has been kind of helpful that I've discovered and been talking to people about is just trying to understand, from a stability standpoint, what pull requests may exist that are related to dependencies, right? We have a couple of different ways that we can do that, right? A lot of times bumps to our package JSON or bumps to our version dependencies, that can cause a little bit of a higher risk. Like you change that version, code has changed, and then there's downstream effects in, things breaking that you didn't expect to break. So you might want to come here and know what sort of, PRs are going to have, that type of impact. Obviously, one way is we can just filter by the dependabot if you're using GitHub. It's very easy, very simple. They're easy to identify. But you might not be using that, or you might have a different provider, and we provide access to all of the labeling mechanisms for all the providers. And so for our team, we do flag those with automations to give it a dependencies flag, and you can come in here and quickly see, okay, what version bumps are happening and what hasn't been merged and why has been merged, right? You get easy access at a glance to view any of the PRs across not only just one repository, but this is across multiple repositories. And as it exists, you can have any label you want, kind of quickly accessible to see what's impacting on your team. Even for us, we have things like obviously what bug fixes exist, that kind of thing. So as I mentioned, this is multiple repos. These repos are driven by workspaces for GitKraken.dev, and workspaces exist across all the products. So, one thing I just do want to note is with workspaces, you can come in here and you want to be able to add repositories and put them together. So we essentially have a way of grouping them with workspaces. And when you have those repositories grouped to workspaces, they can be shared with not only individuals, but they can be shared with team members. And so when you're looking at Team Launchpad, which we can get access to quickly from here, you're not only looking at the pull request based on those repos, but you're also seeing sort of the team breakdown and what's accessible by team member. So this is super interesting. One thing to note, obviously, you can access that stuff quickly and easily by sorting. So, I did want to know which PRs are the oldest. You can sort by that. You can sort by the last updated, which typically is the most helpful for our team, because we can get a good sense for, the last time there was any activity. Obviously, there's stale PRs here that are ready to merge, and we can go and find out. I can ask Pedro, hey, what's going on with that particular PR? Why is it taking, a month to get merged into the main branch? One other thing worth mentioning for our Team Launchpad is, trying to understand who's waiting on reviews, who has, what PRs are taking the longest to merge. There's really easy access here to these different groups, all sorts of, useful ways of aggregating that data. But for our sake purposes, we have this waiting on review section, and we can really easily see at a glance, Miggy has 3 PRs that's waiting on review. This has been pretty helpful to identify developers that might just be stuck. Why are these things taking so long? Who's reviewing it? What can we do? And we provide really, really easy access to just go into the GitHub PR and give a quick response. So I can, click on this, it'll load GitHub up, and I can figure out, hey, leave a comment, Miggy, what's going on? Why is this taking a while? Or I can even just analyze and look and see, there was different commits merged, there was comment threads back and forth, and it provides a really helpful context for trying to getting the understanding very quickly, as opposed to just kind of looking at your default PR lists on a single repository basis or across repos on github.com or other providers. So this has been, helpful for our team to just quickly at a glance understand this. And, we even provide access to update reviewers. It's oh, you know what? Juan's been on vacation. That's why these PRs are taking forever. And so you can easily open them right from the context of Launchpad. And I can go ahead and just decide to reassign this to any of our team members who want to be able to review this PR instead. So it's been super useful and super helpful to be able to do that. And like I said, any collaborator that is working in GitHub, where you can kind of open up and do a quick insight into seeing, what is that particular team member working on? What have they authored? What are they reviewing? And get a sense for workload. Because you might be able to understand, who has the most PRs assigned to them or who has the most PRs reviewed quickly by just kind of going through this filter. We are adding in additional support for, teams being selected by teams. So if you do have a team that you are working with on GitHub or on GitKraken teams as well, you'll be able to quickly just select that and view a set of data by those groups of people. But for now, this is super helpful for our team to just be able to see at a glance all the pull requests that the team and the activity is happening that they might be working on. So with that,
Jeff, real quick, anything worth mentioning on the issues aspect of it as well? So if you're integrated with Jira or GitHub issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So with GitHub right now, there's a provider centric, right? So I'm connected to GitHub, and that is kind of what I'm looking at. But with issues, yeah, you can pull in your issues as well to see the same exact data set if you're using issues to track. you have access to those labels. You have access to be able to view GitHub issues. We do integrate with Jira, Cloud, and Trello. And as you can see, Jira Server soon. This is not on prod, but obviously it's coming. And we'll be able to, look at all of those same data points and same collaborator aspects for your issues as well as for pull requests. So this isn't limited to issues. Good call out. Thanks for mentioning that. And yeah, we do have some other enhancements that we've been adding in. Like if you don't want to see labels or lines change, you can show and hide certain data from these particular aspects as well. Awesome. The next thing I want to touch on is Insights. And Insights is, it's new-ish. It has been something that you could access in the GitKraken desktop for a while, but it was a little bit tied to workspaces in that workspaces area. And so unless you were using workspaces, you may not have had access to it. We really felt like by moving this into the web application, it would just provide a lot more usefulness to people who may not be using a desktop client or an installable tool. And so just really easily, using workspaces, like I mentioned, we are able to generate and build some velocity DORA-like metrics for your repositories. This is right now in previews, part of any planned, free, paid trial. All of that is accessible. And it's driven off of, workspaces. Our Help Center workspace is not as active, so I'll kind of switch over to one of our other more active workspaces. And for me and other leaders, like I said, because it's driven by workspaces and because those workspaces can be shared with team members, I'm seeing a good insight, a good window into the velocity of that team, right? How much are we trending towards in terms of our average PR merge time and cycle time? And to kind of do just a quick overview, because I don't want to dig into like what these metrics are and why they're important. If you're familiar with DORA metrics, DevOps research and assessment, this is all kind of, foundational. They're one of the main benchmark metrics out there. And there's a few different ones, and we're focused on the sort of speed and velocity side of those metrics at the moment. There was a couple others for like, recovery time and stability that help with stability. But these are just insights for now into, how quickly and how efficiently are we merging code, merging PRs. What we're looking at is a set of pull requests based on the time frame. And those pull requests are across multiple repositories based off of the repos and the team members assigned to that particular workspace. And so you're seeing cycle time, which is strictly a measure of how long it takes from when code is started. And what we're measuring against is when I believe the first commit date is made for a pull request until when that pull request is merged into the target branch. So it's really looking at that review cycle, really giving you a sense for, on average, how many days does it take from when a PR is created to when, that gets merged into our main branch. Because the faster you can get those merges in, obviously, the more value you're adding, and the more value, the better it is for your app, for your users, for your customers. And so this is a really helpful benchmark to kind of be able to look at that. One of the things that we're doing here and we'd like to look at is just the trend over time. And some of the customers we've talked to like to see, if our cycle time over the past 28 days is compared to the previous 28 days on the trend down or on the trend up, we can go ahead and find, reach out to that team, understand, hey, what's been slowing us down? What are we working on that's, taking a while, and why is it doing that? On top of cycle time, we have our throughput metric, which is essentially just the number of PRs that you get to merge over that selected time frame. So, and then we have some supporting metrics for each of those where we're looking at, the PRs opened versus the PRs merged, and like what percentage based on that time happened, right? If you can get close to 100%, that means like PRs you're opening are getting merged. There's never going to be 100%, obviously, because there's rollover, but this is very, very helpful to just get a sense for generally, are we doing more or are we doing less than we were before? One thing that's worth mentioning here is we do have a new ability to export. And so if you wanted to explore this data, you can easily export it as a CSV, pull it into Google Sheets or whatever spreadsheet program you want. and do some quick analysis on trend and get the actual values. And we are planning to roll out additional features here to allow you to select teams or team members to understand not only like how is that team doing specifically, but what are we going to be able to provide? Like what PRs are going to be able to be identified as the outliers? And to just kind of touch on that real quick, we have this ability as part of one of our little mini web apps. So you can see, for example, cycle time. This is a scatter plot of PRs. We'll be pulling this in shortly to be able to show everybody, hey, these are the PRs that took really fast. For the majority of our PRs that we merged in, they happened in less than a day. We're pretty fast on the rest. And, this repository is doing very good because Microsoft VS Code, they're doing pretty well in terms of their speed to merge their PRs. Something like React might have a little bit more, and you'll be able to dig in and see like, oh, what pull requests on average took longer than 8 days to merge, and you can dig in and find out why. Those types of features are going to be layered in. We're going to be bringing that stuff into our Insights on GK Dev platform as well, and super excited about being able to dig into that data and understand the context of where these numbers are coming from.
Jeff, we got a couple of questions I just want to I'll throw up on the stage. The first one I think was a Launchpad question.
Sure thing. Let's see. Which is it?
So do the branch names not get displayed on the status item?
The status item. Maybe I need clarification for that. But the branch names for the pull request, for now, they're not displayed on the summary data, but you can get that branch information. We do have, like I said, we are looking at adding a bunch of different fields and labels. That's good feedback if we want to have the branch name, both target and or source branch from the remote. I hope that's answering the question. If not, then maybe somebody can post clarification.
Yeah, Jordan, feel free to add more details if Jeff didn't answer it there. There was another question about Insights being available in GitKraken.dev. Does that mean it's not available in GitKraken desktop anymore? I'll let you answer that one.
That is correct. So you won't be able to access it in GitKraken desktop as of, I believe, yesterday. And this is mainly because it helps just keep that, we had some feedback about just kind of keeping the desktop clean, keeping the desktop targeted at, just Git management, Git productivity. This will be available as linked from the desktop, so you won't lose access to it. You'll be when you go to workspaces in the original area on GitKraken desktop, when you click View Insights, instead of opening it up in a pop-up, now you're going to go to GitKraken.dev, and GitKraken.dev with Insights can be installed as a mini web app as PWA. On your desktop or on your phone, so you would be able to sort of run it in a little bit more of like a native context if that's kind of what you're concerned about. But it is no longer available in GitKraken desktop, and you can still access Insights from GitKraken desktop. It just won't load in the application.
And then one more question before we hand it back to you, Jeff, was about setting schedules as it relates to Insights.
So Insights, that's a great question. And I think it might be something we need to add in the future. For now, this is a rolling average. So it is counting weekends or off days and holiday schedules, but it's taking the rolling average over the previous, X amount of days, so that we sort of balance that out and we don't see these crazy big dips or these crazy big, missing gaps of data happening. We are looking at, there's some questions I think in the audience tab too. These are not, I guess, DORA metrics in the true sense of the word, but they are DORA-like. So lead time for change is one of the DORA metrics. A lot of people, equate cycle time with lead time for changes. And so that is technically one of the velocity metrics that DORA provides. And it's strictly a measure of, how long does it take from when code is started to when code gets merged? A lot of sources and services will try to measure that as broadly as they can. We're measuring, like I said, from when our first commit is made until when the PR is merged. but eventually we would want to expand and possibly provide insight into the pipeline and the build and deployment process that it goes from merge into deploying to prod. That is a missing gap, and that's something that I guess standard Dora would provide you if you can connect all of those tools, and we are headed that direction. So that's a great question. And then throughput is also a Dora metric as well. So we are providing, of the two sides of the coin for Dora, speed and quality, we're looking at speed here first. And, we do have plans to improve on, lead time for changes and change failure rate as well. So that's a good question. Weekend schedules, and I think that... Sure thing. So automations on GitKraken.dev today, obviously we just have a teaser. You can sign up and get to stay informed. People who are signing up, as we are getting things available to use, we'll offer possible early access to start playing with and using the feature. But what automations is, and what we're really excited about, is that it's going to provide a lot of way to offload some tedious tasks, a lot of ways to, from the leader manager level, provide compliance and security controls on the code that your team is merging in. And it's super quick and easy to kind of build and spin up and set up automations. So for the sake of this demo, I'm going to be flipping to Figma and talk about just some of the use cases and examples that we have today. It will live on GitKraken.dev. It is going to provide a way to streamline pull request process for your team. And really high summary, high level, what this is doing is it's looking at your team's pull requests, and it's looking at all the data from, let's just say, for GitHub, and it's going to be able to trigger like an if this then that response based on that data. So teams are finding this super helpful when it comes to compliance or wanting to enforce best practices, and I'll speak to some of that in a second. But we are in active development on this. We are spinning things up, and we hope to have this soon. So keep in mind, a lot of this is conceptual, and I'll speak to things that are either more known or less known as we kind of go through if you have questions. This particular demo, one of the ways is obviously setting up a GitHub app to install for your organization so that we have access to webhooks for the repositories, but we may or may not use a GitHub app. We may just ask you to configure and turn on webhooks and connect to those repositories so that we just have access to the data. Really, that's all this is about. So every team or every organization, as long as you're comfortable with setting up webhooks and letting us look at those webhooks for your pull requests, you'll be able to use automations. So I won't walk through some of the details. You'll obviously be able to choose, specific repositories you want to run them on, as opposed to all repos of your org. And when you do, we're going to be landing you into, the success page for being able to access and create your first automation. We're going to be providing some out-of-the-box templates that might be helpful for, things like just staying informed about code changes that you care about, right? As a code owner for a repo, I think GitHub does have some of this baked in, but what it doesn't do is it allows you to have code owners for specific, file and code snippets, as well as just file paths within the repo, not just a specific repo itself. And so it kind of spun together a sample automation. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Once you have these webhooks set up and you want to create your automation, it's going to be a very simple form. It's going to, this is an example kind of put together where, there's going to be conditions and there's going to be actions, right? When the data comes through, you can automate any tedious task that your team might want. In this example, I kind of focused more on like a general security and compliance approach. You might want an automation for each one of these conditions that I've set up, but for the sake of the demo and to save time, I'm kind of putting them all here to kind of illustrate things a little bit better. So let's just say as a dev leader, I care about, enforcing, some best practices or making sure certain things happen to improve our process, improve visibility, improve all of the things we want. The first condition, obviously, we can look at code that's been added. If it contains, this is a Python repo, we'd never want to use the exec function. We can just do some simple string global pattern matching to find out, like, is there any code that's changed in this PR that includes this function? And you'll be able to do that for any, pattern risk you want, right? There's probably a lot of them out there. I'm not as familiar with, I'm just a product person, but you could do these simple checks in the automation. So every time a PR is made, it can go ahead and post, a response to the GitHub PR. It can go ahead and even integrate with the checks on GitHub so that it won't let you merge until somebody like checks a box or the change is made itself. Another example that might be helpful is those dependency changes that I mentioned, right? So if there's an update to the dependency files, you might want to know that it's a higher risk than normal. So you can post a comment to GitHub or even auto assign somebody to the PR once, if there's ever a package JSON file update or a package lock file update. And additionally, on top of that, we hope to even add things in for looking at the commit messages or the branch names themselves. One of the things that we've heard from a lot of dev leaders is missing Jira project keys, missing Jira issue keys, or other, issue providers. The way Jira works is you put that issue key in the commit message, and we will be able to tell when the PR is made, hey, this doesn't have an issue key. We can, have a check in there and help your team just stay on top of those missing issue keys they forgot to add into their commit message. Additionally, we've even heard of people wanting to do conventional commits, right? Like conventional commits is pretty popular, and you'll be able to look and see where the commits made. Are there any commits in this PR that don't have the conventional commit pattern? Is it missing, a feature or fix or docs, that kind of thing? It's really highly customizable, super powerful. And to just speak to some of the actions and the conditions that you'll be able to do with this type of flexible feature, you'll be able to post comments or add labels to your PRs, automatically assign reviewers or assignees. And even GitHub has the checklist. And like I said, when you post a checklist, it's even tied into the checks for GitHub PRs, where unless you check off those boxes, they won't let you merge the PR. So that's really helpful for best practices. Make sure you have the unit tests. Make sure you looked at this area of the code base. And like I said, we are layering in some of these baseline conditions. Probably step by step. We may not have all of these at launch, but for the most part, this is what we have planned. To be able to look at file paths, file names, or if the files are added to a folder, commit message, branch name, any code changes, and like I said, authors, reviewers. If there's specific people who made a PR, you could also have things triggered based on that. So I'm really excited about this, and I think it's going to be super helpful to just provide a flexible way to give dev leaders that ability to, enforce best practices or just encourage best practices, not really necessarily enforce, which can be helpful for all of those things I mentioned before. Any questions on that? Other than that, let me see what else I have. No, let's talk about the questions, because the rest of automations obviously is just going to be how it will work. So we can answer some of these here. Is there a way to identify stranded branches merged but not removed? Housekeeping to reduce repo confusion. With automations, no, but what you can do, at least I know from the GitHub side, right? When you merge PRs, they'll do auto cleanup on the remote. If that's not something that your team's doing, you can create an automation that reminds people to go ahead and do that. As far as local dev activity and stranded branches or branches that have been merged, there is work, and I'm not as connected to it, but there is work planned for providing like branch cleanup and maintenance in GitKraken Desktop, for example. But branch management is definitely a great use case, and that's something that we can explore looking at from the remote management side on GitKraken.dev. Yeah. I guess it depends on what we mean by supporting. The answer is it's definitely something that has come up. It's something we talk about. It's something on our mind about how we can, provide better workflow tools and guides for people who want conventional commits. We're definitely thinking about it with automations. And I know from the GitKraken desktop side, commit templates or ways to provide streamlined workflows for people who are using conventional commits in GitKraken desktop. Is definitely something on the radar and in our features list for consideration. There is, by the way, a feature upvote. I don't have the URL handy, but I think it's featureupvote.gitkraken.com or GitKraken.featureupvote.com. Maybe you can post it, Ken. I don't remember exactly, but there is things about conventional commits, and if it's important to your team, definitely go there and share your use case and share what you're looking for, because it is on our radar. We are talking about what we can do, how we can make that better for teams that are adopting conventional commits.
And then the last question that we have, which I don't know if you're going to be able to answer, is when will automation be available?
Near term. So like I said, we're spinning up things right now. And I don't want to commit to dates, but we're looking at sometime in Q4 in an ideal world. And that would be, we might even have early access in the next month or so. So it won't be available next week or in 2 weeks, but it will be hopefully sooner than, the end of the year.
And for those that are interested, should they go to that automations page on GitKraken.dev and kind of sign up for more info?
Yeah. If you're interested, please submit your email. And if you have ideas, submit feedback. It's in the top header of GitKraken.dev. Not ideas on automation, but ideas on any of the stuff we talked about and questions that'll come through. And, we all look at those questions or ideas and take them pretty seriously. So appreciate that.
Great. Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Just a reminder, this recording will be available on gitkraken.com/workshops, along with all the other past workshops. So go ahead and bookmark that. And we hope to see you on the next one. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.